I always recommend this, that you can pick up all the lessons in the world, but then you have to sit down, and say, oh, let me see, how can I apply these lessons or techniques in my style, in my way? NLP is a great tool to bring, a transformation, behavioral change in people, even up to the level that if you know NLP as a master practitioner, and if you have really gone deep into NLP, you can actually fix traumas in people. People get rid of their phobias of snake, spider, heights. I'm one of those. I had a lot of fear of heights because I was a quite chubby boy, in my childhood. So I'm one of those boys who never climbed the trees, never jumped from places, because I was heavy in my weight. So coming back, these traumas can be fixed, and it did help me to fix my traumas. I literally I would get nightmares sometimes of snakes. I would get dreams of them, and I would wake up because I don't know where it comes from, but I had a lot of fear about snakes. Doing NLP, I was able to pick up snakes in my hand, and just be okay with holding an animal, because it's just nothing, they will do to you if you mean no harm to them. It's only when they think, you're going to harm them, they attack at you. But obviously, we watch these scary, dreadful movies, and we make up some imagination in our brain, that if the whales is coming towards me, it's going to definitely kill me. It's not the case, but it's very difficult to think about it that way when we are in that situation. So NLP definitely, is a great technique or a tool one can learn. Having said that, if you go to the foundation of NLP, right, what they did is they researched human senses. And the 5 senses, we have through which we learn is what we really need to understand, at the deepest level. So the 3 dominant senses we have by which we pick up knowledge or we, process data, obviously by listening, and then we see things by which we learn. And then, when we feel things, these are the 3 dominants. And then obviously we have something called taste and smell, which may not be that dominant, but they still play a role, when it comes to learning and picking up knowledge. So when you understand those 5 senses at the deepest level, what happens, you start understanding people. Like in NLP, without going much deep, depending on where your eyes are pointed, whether you go looking up, looking for a, like a visual from the past, or you're looking down, if the eyelids are going on the side, you can read a few things about the person. Now, having said that, in normal life also, we have been blessed subconsciously with the power that when we look at somebody, we understand a lot about them if we are present. If you're absent in our consciousness, in our understanding of looking at that person and reading them completely, then it's a different story. But coming back, if you're present with that person, and if you look at them and pay attention, we might be able to pick up quite a few things about them. Let's say, if their eyes are wide open and the skin, is tightened up while they're speaking, there are very high chances that they're very nervous, in that moment, because our skin, is the biggest organ of our body. And if the skin is mismatched to the words which we are sharing, then people pick that up. And that's a definite sign, of nervousness, which you're carrying inside you. It doesn't match us up with the words you're sharing. You're just sharing it for the mere sake of sharing it. So coming back, yes, if you pay attention, if you observe the person, even without NLP, you can pick up a lot about that person. Or you just must study your own self. Studying your own self is the biggest way of learning. And I always recommend this, that you can pick up all the lessons in the world, but then you have to sit down, and say, oh, let me see, how can I apply these lessons or techniques in my style, in my way? They say nobody's journey is same. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. You need to understand, where are you starting from and what are you starting with? So coming back, NLP, do learn it. It's a great technique which helps you to, understand human nature and behavior. And yeah, you can do mind reading with the help of NLP. At the same time, in my world, if you go deep with human behavioral work, even without NLP, you'll be able to pick up, a lot of things about what they're going through in their mind, because our fears are pretty common, similar. The worries we have as human beings, are very similar for most people. It doesn't matter whether you're Indian or you're an European or American. We have similar kind of emotions in which we go through, and they're very common to every human being. Once you understand those emotions and you observe people and you study your own self and the people in front of you, I think, you will reach to a place where you would look like Antaryami, like as if you already know. People might say, oh God, how did you know that I'm thinking about this? Like, how do I say this? These, no disrespect to anybody, these sadhu babas, they come to your houses and in the villages also. And they talk about common things, like, आप सबके लिए बहुत करते हो, फिर भी आपको उसका इनाम नहीं मिलता है. That's something, most human beings think and feel and go through. So there's no rocket science about saying that to any human being, because most human beings, or let's say every human being, thinks, what, I don't get the deserved things I want in my life. So when you use those mind reading lines, which are very common to every human being, you go like, oh, how do you know all this? It's just a science, you're applying on the brain, and you're doing something called, I don't want to use this word right now here, but yeah, it's like you're playing with the mind. It's a tricky game, you're doing with the mind. These are very common traits we all human beings carry, inside us. It's like, if you play that on me as well, even when I understand so much about human behavior, it will work on me. I will be like hooked up and saying, oh, you know so much about me. Oh, thank you. Yes, you are the person who can understand me. Nobody else does. Because we human beings are a big mystery for every other human being in a context. So yeah, there you go. NLP is a good technique to learn, but it's not the end of everything. You can still be a great teacher if you haven't learned NLP, or you don't plan to do NLP. It's still okay.